Welcome to a new episode of Outside the Panels with your host, Johnny the Machine Hughes. Welcome everyone to an episode of Outside the Panels. I am your host, Johnny the Machine Hughes, recovering from the Dolphins, one and done in the playoffs. I cannot believe it's another year, another having to sit and watch the Super Bowl and shout for somebody else's team. Son of a... Anyway. Everyone who knows me knows I love indie books, small print books, and Kickstarters. So why not combine all three like some sort of crazy comic book Power Ranger Megazord with the box creator, writer, graphic designer, the fantastic Chris O'Hara. Chris, how's it going, man?
Good, Johnny. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. Fantastic intro. Rivals a lot that I've had, so thank you.
Hey, what can I say? I've got rivals.
I gotta keep it real. I've had some good ones that were filled with lies, but I wouldn't say otherwise.
Fine. That's the way it's going to be.
Yep. We'll go. It's only uphill from here.
Yeah. All right, excellent, Chris. Thank you so much. I know you've got. You're working with a colleague on Last One Too. That's coming to its close on its Kickstarter. Less than 2 days to go. Already funded. Well done. And of course, you've got your own stuff coming up as well. So we'll get into that in a little bit. So thank you so much for spending the time, man. You must be super busy talking comic books.
I am very busy, but I'm having fun though. That's the important part.
Let's start at the top and work our way down.
Okay.
We mentioned writer, we mentioned graphic designer. These are like creative talents outlets from the get-go. What was it that got you back or got you into comics to start publishing books?
Yeah, so I've done a couple different I've done the rounds, so I'm trying not to
rounds. I tell you what, fine.
Once again, I
thought you said you were going uphill for me.
I wanted you as number one. The machine was top of my list, and they just said you can't get him right now. So I'm in now, though. So we're in the pocket.
Yeah, we're in the zone.
We're in the pocket. But so I'm trying not to repeat myself too much. But I ended up. My dad worked for Marvel before I was born, and he was an inker. He's a very talented artist. He ended up actually quitting due to some pride issues. Basically, we had this really cool. I remember it so vividly, but like in our closet, we had, back then, early 80s, had one of those full, it was like a big portfolio almost of an inking that he was doing for an upcoming comic book, because you have to do it at a larger size and then it gets shrunk down. That way you keep that definition. So I remember going through this thing, it's almost as big as I was as a kid, and I'm just blown away by it. So that was I remember that vividly, but insanely talented. He ended up quitting because they said he needed to do it was his own pitch, and they basically said, oh, you need to work on it a little bit more, it's not quite there yet. And then he quit, and I'm like, okay, idiot. I was like, come on, man. So anyway,
I mean, in hindsight, let's just say in hindsight, I think if I'd had the conversation 10 years ago, I'd have said the greatest movement in comic books was digital coloring. Nowadays, it's the fact that Kickstarter's crowdfunded independent books. Back then, there was no independence you could go to.
No, that's why I meant by like, come on, man, don't let me frighten you. This is Marvel, man. Yeah. But so my room was filled with Spider-Man stuff. We had a whole walk-in closet filled with comic books. We ended up going through it one day with one of those ancient value your comic book like hardcover books, and we're like going through each one, and I think we made it like halfway through. It was like $150,000 worth of comics in there, a lot of first issues. He's a collector. So anyway, always been into comics from a very young age. Less than happy story because he ended up bailing on my family when I was around 7. And I kind of tossed everything out the window. I didn't collect comics anymore. I didn't draw. I used to draw, obviously emulating him and like trying to, and I was pretty good, honestly, for a 7-year-old. And then I just stopped drawing, which kind of sucks because I can only imagine how, I'd hopefully be a little better than I was 7 by now. So dropped it all. I'm 34 now. One of my good friends who you kind of referenced earlier, John Shell, created a comic book series called The Last Wand. That was The Last Wand. That was his first comic he's ever created, and it was about 2 years ago. So he dipped his toes in. I saw it, looked incredible, seemed accessible and possible. I've always been a creative person and wanting to like tell stories and captivate an audience and all that fun stuff. And I've tried many different mediums, from independent video games to screenplays to a lot of different things. That's
your friend's book, yeah, Last One.
This is my partner's book. So John Shell and myself started Bent Box Comics. We're an independent, small independent comic book publisher based out of Southwest Florida. But this is his book. This is issue 2. I have it right here. He actually already has it printed. So that was a Kickstarter. It's already printed and done. So it's
cool.
we don't mess around. If
Cool.
Before the Kickstarter starts, we always have a physical copy in our hands. That's the plan for
That's
our
such a
publishing.
good idea. I just wish companies would do that.
It's hard. It's hard. There's some upfront costs involved and stuff, but we're kind of taking this seriously, wanting to do a bit of an investment. But yeah, so he got me into comics, so I tried it out and wrote my first one, Artificial One, which, you know, I've heard is really good. I think it's really good.
Modest.
Yeah, I've heard it's good. So we're working on issue 2 now, but we're just continuing to keep going with it. Yeah.
So career-wise, writer, screenwriter, you mentioned previously, games designer. That's you know, when we think about the different methods of how we have to tell the story in those, how do you manage to curtail that? Because you know, screenwriting handed off to the director, they do their thing, then the actor goes in and does their thing, and then the executive producer goes in and does their thing, and
messes everything up.
Yeah, you're kind of like, I'm not saying that. I might get an acting gig one.
That was called a joke.
Okay. And then game design. I read an article by Paul Dini who said when you wrote Batman, Arkham City, mindful not to give too much story away to stop the guys doing this with the thumbs and all that.
Yeah.
And then comic books again are totally different because you've got to think about pace, page count. You know, how do you manage to kind of spin those plates to make sure that it is cohesive for you?
It's a good question because I never really thought about that previously, but a lot of what I've done has been in some way, shape, or form storytelling. So whether it be screenplay, and once again, I'm not saying like I worked for Miramount or anything like that, but it was just little stuff I wanted to get started. I've always wanted to write and tell stories, and I'm in love with video games that have a nice through line and are narrative driven. You know, you have your Red Dead Redemption 2s and which is one of my favorites of all time. Obviously the Arkham games are fantastic. Love each and every one of them. So obviously Spider-Man, with the resurgence of that, even though I was in it before it was cool. I was back in the PlayStation days, the PlayStation 1. So
I remember,
always loved him.
I remember Spider-Man 2, the game on PlayStation 1. And you had to rescue the people from the burning theater.
Beautiful.
How hard was that?
It was beautiful. Games were hard back then. They didn't take it easy on us, and I appreciate it. But so yeah, I've always loved that kind of medium. And I think what ended up happening was I kind of took bits and pieces from each style of writing. So there's a very different style when you write a video game because you have to take into account player actions, you know, player decisions if you want to go that route, which is really fun, especially if you do have a narrative base that you wanted a through line that you need to fulfill and still giving the player some control over it. So that's what always attracted me to video games. Very difficult to do, to be completely honest. It's a monster of undertaking creating a video game. So I appreciate all those who do it. But same with film. I think I ended up coming into comic books and writing it in a way to where I took a bit of each. You know, a lot of my panels were written in a way to where it described camera angles, panning between characters. You know, 2/3 sectioning off a panel in 2/3, making sure 2 characters are over here, one's a little further in the distance, and that's how I'll pace out my comic book. I'll describe all the panels that way. And I'm kind of writing it more as if it was a TV show or a movie.
Cool.
That way, whenever you, because it is a visual medium, and that's one of the biggest things about TVs or TV shows and movies is obviously they have to captivate you in some way, visually. So that's kind of what I took from it is, this panel needs to have a dynamic camera angle, even though it's not, if there's no cameras around.
And it's interesting you bring that up because I write reviews for Comic Crusaders, and I see a ton of indie books, and I see like really flat panels, flat angles where they try to squeeze a whole character into one small panel. It just absolutely detracts, hurts your eyes, doesn't pan across well, and some books are really cinematic in that you kind of, it's just everything just flows nice and easy through the page and stuff. So it's definitely a trick to have, and a style,
for sure.
a skill. It's a skill, and I think if you can merge those three elements, I think you're pretty much on a winner there for sure.
I'm trying, but I'm not saying I nailed it yet. But that's kind of just how it's going, and it's been fun to write for sure because everything's kind of being viewed through like a camera lens. Might be a different way of doing it. I don't know.
So when we say camera lens, that obviously means film fan. Do you have any favorite sort of inspirations, film, game, comic book wise, that you think to yourself, when I go to look at these various mediums, these are the ones, this is where I'm going to get my jollies?
Yeah, I mean, my friends know me as someone with terrible tastes, and what that means is I like everything. And you know what? So that's one of those things. It's like I don't agree with them, but it's basically like if I don't like a film, it's because it's very, very bad. Otherwise, I like almost everything. I'll enjoy it. I'll see it for what it was. Basically, I'll see. Okay, that was the director's point. This was the actor's choice. This was, you know what I mean? This was the reason why the score went this way. And I'm fine with that. I don't mind. I'll take it at face value.
That sounds hard to just sit back and chill and watch a movie. I mean,
like I said, I'm critiquing. I'm definitely doing that. That's why I said, I was like, oh, this was the actor's choice, but I'm just accepting it. I'm not sure if that's the best thing to do or not, but I like almost everything. So, I'm a big fan of, once again, some of it's cliche. I like the Tarantinos, Scorsese. I really like, my favorite's Guy Ritchie. I've been saying that a lot lately just because I've been on a binge of his films. I love his style. It's my style of like, it's, if I wanted to make a movie, it would be in the Guy Ritchie way. It just would be. Like, I loved King Arthur. A lot of people didn't like that movie. I loved it. Like, there's so many movies that Guy Ritchie does where if he touches it, I tend to like it. So that I mean, Tarantino with his dialogue, he's just so good at writing dialogue that, and that's not even a director point of view. That's from the writer's perspective.
Do you think that Tarantino is the adult version of Joss Whedon?
There's a case to be made there. I can see it.
Yeah, because Buffy is all snappy patter, one, bam, bam, bam.
Yeah, I could see it. Yeah. There's something about it. I like him too, Whedon too. So, I mean, there's so many people I like, but that's because I throw such a broad net out there. If you put a movie in front of me, I'll probably like it. But I would say that some of the inspiration definitely comes from people who can write a good dialogue, like the Tarantinos. You won't see a lot of that in like Artificial yet, but that's Artificial is kind of given you is kind of inspired by Sam Raimi.
Okay, cool.
Like the Evil Dead series, which actually the background that you're showing right now is an homage to the original Evil Dead poster.
Excuse me. Cool.
Anyone can go look that up, but that was my artist choice, which I loved, and he killed it on. So a lot of it, now that I think about it, is inspired by some form of film or director or scene or something.
Yeah, it's good to have those inspirations. These are the things that keep us ticking, right?
Yeah.
And I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing to be open to all types of movies or comics or whatever, because otherwise you just actually you're minimizing down your choices, aren't you? Instead of looking at it like this and saying, well, I don't like this, I don't like that. What you're saying is, I only like this much, and that's all I'm going to get. Pretty
much.
And I think that can be quite stagnating for a while. You kind
of 100%. I feel like there's a weird trend that hating something is cool. You know what I mean?
I'm a Dolphins fan, of course. I know how that works.
Yeah, exactly. We all hate the Dolphins. I'm just kidding. I love the Dolphins. They're great. I live in Florida.
Yeah, but so does Jacksonville and Tampa. You know what I'm saying?
I don't like Jacksonville. I do like the Bucks, but I don't like Jacksonville. So there's that.
All right. Well, I'll tell you
Dolphins
what.
Are cool though.
The enemy of my enemy is my friend.
I'll take it.
We'll go with that then.
Okay.
Oh my God. Looks like I'm shouting for the Bucks again this year. To be fair, I shouted for the Bucks when Brad Johnson was your quarterback and you beat the Raiders.
Okay, great.
My brother was a Raiders fan, so I was like, I'm not shouting for them.
Can't have you win. Yeah, that's brotherly love right there.
That's it. That's how that works. Excellent. Yep. Right. So, when you've got your page going on, you've got your dialogue, and you're looking at your camera angles. What sort of? I always think writers are kind of like mini directors or mini editors in their own way, because they're the guys. They're the first people who put the pen to paper and say, right, this is what I want to see. This is how I want to see it, and then everything sort of like coalesces around that, or maybe goes off in a different tangent. How do you kind of manage that? Because I know I personally I am not. I hate getting feedback. I hate getting I get it really quite personal.
Yeah. Okay.
If my wife doesn't say, "Wow, this dinner you cooked was gorgeous," I'm like,
I'm with you on that a little bit.
So how do you manage to sort of like put your heart on your sleeve, hand off to an artist, and then wait nervously for it to come back?
I think one of the things, and I don't think I've really talked about this before, is I started developing a bit of a relationship with my artists. It's not much of a handoff. I've had interviews or conversation with other indie creators where, a lot of it is you write the page, you put it in a Dropbox somewhere, he picks it up, the artist picks it up, they come back to you with a page and says, "Here, done." And then and then you write back, "Hey, maybe change this." They change it or don't. So like that's kind of the typical way of doing it. My artist's name is Gabriel Fonseca. He's out of Brazil. He's a young guy, extremely talented, but I've always been one to be very interpersonal. I like getting on chats. I like talking to people. I'm emotive. I have hands for a reason. And I like to describe things and have instant feedback. So that's the difference. I want, like, what do you think right now? That's important to me. So what I do is we have hour-and-a-half long meetings twice a week. So we are sitting in front of a computer, going panel by panel, page by page. What do you think of this? Oh, it's good. It looks good. Oh man, this is amazing. This needs tweaked a little bit. Let's change it. And sometimes he'll do it on the fly or he'll come back later. But it was definitely developing a relationship with the artist that helped me trust him to be like, he's very knowledgeable pop culture wise. He has a lot of the same love for movies that I do. So like if I reference something, 9 times out of 10, he'll know exactly what I'm talking about and he'll be able to pick it up and run with it and in his own style. So it's amazing. So I think I found kind of a diamond in the rough. I'm very lucky. Artificial would not be what it is without him. Without my 2 artists now, I brought on a new colorist. But yeah, so I've never been one to shy away from letting people do what they do best. I'm a writer, and I still have a hard time calling myself that. It sounds pretentious just saying I'm a writer. You know what I mean? So if I go to you,
living, Chris. Oh well, I'm a writer.
I'm a writer. Yeah, if you don't say tall, then you're really not a writer. I need, feather in my cap and everything, pinky out. Yeah. So that's how I feel. So like, I'm not sitting on any high horse going, my words are set in stone. You need to do what these words said because they're so good. They're really not. They're probably okay. and the interpretation between you and I, the artist and I, and then obviously the reader as the end result is what's the most important thing. So when we look at a panel and he sees it a different way and I see it a different way, and then we communicate about it and we come up with the best idea wins always. That's my go-to. So if you have a better idea than I do, we're using that one.
I think you're somewhat self-deprecating, and
isn't that a Brit thing? Did I get that? I used to love British comedy shows back in the day. Doctor Who's always been a fan favorite. I love them. So
yeah,
that's me. Honorary Brit.
Yeah. I can't remember who it was. I can't remember who I was speaking to. This goes back a couple of years. So I was on a pod very similar to this, interviewing a writer. I can't remember his name. Apologies. And we're talking about when he went to his first big San Diego con. And he's at San Diego con, and he's like, he sees Karen Berger from then Vertigo DC, now Berger Books.
Yeah.
Massive editor over there. And he's like, I can't go over and talk to her. It's Karen Berger. I can't go and talk to Karen Berger. It's Karen Berger. And so he like got himself in such a kind of panic frenzy that he just didn't do anything. And then about half an hour later, Karen Berger goes over to him and goes, "Oh, you're such and such. I've read your book. Yeah, it's really good. Here's my card." He's like,
wow.
And the reason I tell this story is everybody puts the pants on one leg at a time.
Yeah, you're just another person. You're a person.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
that's it.
Yeah, definitely. So if you've got, I don't want to sound quite crude when I say this, but if you've got the balls to put something on paper and then put it out in the world, I'm already doing this.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's already something. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I always use the adage that you can't please everybody all the time. You know?
Yeah.
And there's maybe only a handful of characters you can get away with not being fantastic on, and those are the big ones like Spider-Man, Batman, because everyone's got to buy Batman. You know, so as an indie writer, to create that base of fan base, you've got to be on your A game from the get-go. And if you're having success, Chris, that tells me you're already on your A game, my friend. Already on your A game.
I'm trying.
There you go.
Yeah, I'm trying.
Right, before we get a look at the presentation and have a check out some of the art and the book of Artificial, time for an advert for one of our other shows. We'll keep this one short and sweet. Hey, it's one of my favorite shows. It's the Old Timers.
Do you want to find out what makes the professor do his happy dance? Check out the Old Timers Comic Book Show, only on the UCPN.
That's right, the Old Timers Comic Book Show, where the hosts aren't old, but the comics most certainly are. Check it out for, I think, the next episode, if I remember correctly, is a UK invasion show. There you go. Which creators made it. We'll see. All right, enough about us Brits. Back to sunny Florida. Chris, talk to us about Artificial. What's the idea behind this?
So Artificial is my first IP. It's the elevator pitch is kind of Vincent Van Gogh battles against AI zombies. That's it. Short and sweet. AI. So the main reason this one came up was, or kind of like started as an idea, is obviously the rise of AI art, how Midjourney and all of these and DALL-E and all these different AI programs and solutions have been becoming more and more popular, more and more capable. So that kind of popped into my head of, I've always been a sci-fi fan. You know, I love iRobot and all, you know, older sci-fi. It's just anything gets me. Once again, I love everything. So I kind of had this idea of, you know, what would stop a soulless, like AI, you know, post-apocalyptic hellscape of a future other than a traditional artist. You know, I thought it'd be fun and quirky. I've always loved Vincent Van Gogh.
Are you telling me there's no Asimov rules in Artificial?
I would love to pretend like I know what you're saying.
So the Asimov rules are: don't protect a human. Don't hurt a human.
Oh, yes.
I
forgot that's what it was called. Well, you know how things go with robots.
There's always,
it goes a certain way, always.
There's always a blue screen of death.
Yeah, you got a little spinning thing going on, and then you're dead.
So goes the other way, you're a zombie.
Yeah, you're fine. So we had this idea for that, and it actually started out. I'll try not to take too much time, but this is just a kind of a funnier story. Is that it was originally going to be about Bob Ross fighting against demons.
Okay,
that was it, and it wasn't going to be called Artificial. It was going to be called Velvet Red.
Okay.
Kind of like a spin on one of his painting colors. So that was the original idea. I had a meeting with the Bob Ross estate because that is the only way to do that.
Okay.
I know.
Oh.
I had my pinky up the whole time.
Hold on. Now that's what makes you sound pretentious.
Yeah, after all, I don't say this always, every time. I kind of do. So I had this meeting, and it involved their main like publicist, who they work with their IPs with, whoever they section out to books and toys and everything. They had to be there, along with his ex-wife. So she was there. Well, she's part of the estate, so it had to be a thing.
Okay.
And I know, well, you talk about going up to people, and I'm over here like, I would love to have a meeting with you. I was like, who am I? But I had an idea, and I knew that the only way to do it would be I have to talk to the estate and get the license for Bob Ross. Well, Bob Ross is not allowed to be violent. And so they said he cannot be hurting people in any way. I was like, well, they're not people. And they're like, and it was funny because it was right before I was going to say like demons and zombies and stuff. And they said, well, he's not allowed to hurt anyone. And I was like, oh, well, it's not people, it's robots. I was like, let's see how I can just basically pull this out of my butt, because I had to restructure the entire story just to try and get Bob Ross. And so on the fly, I pitched an idea for an AI hellscape filled with robot zombies, led by Bob Ross. Still had Vincent Van Gogh planned, Marie Cassatt, and Leonardo da Vinci, which are the main characters of Artificial. And they just wouldn't go for it. So I had to scrap Bob Ross. I had a full issue written with Bob Ross, and I loved it so much, to the point where I have pages that I basically just copied and pasted into a different story because they could fit a new character. But I just loved how it turned out. Anyway, all that said, now we have Vincent Van Gogh fighting AI zombies in Artificial. But that's basically the brainchild. That's how it started, and that's where we are now.
That's such a great story, because people will think when you have like your initial your light bulb moment, that it's like, oh, I've got this great idea, write it down, and then that's it, it's done. And it's like, no, it's like revision after revision.
Exactly.
How's it change? Luke Skywalker becomes Luke Skywalker, not Luke Starkiller, as he was going to be called.
Exactly. Yeah.
That sort of stuff. So interesting to see that happens. Absolutely brilliant. And how long a period was this then, from the initial kind of conception point to you had the meeting with Bob Ross guys, and then, oh my God, I've got to do something completely different? I
go pretty fast, and I probably go faster than I should, but I had that idea for Bob Ross. I wrote the comic in probably over a weekend. It was really fun. I was just like into it. I had the vibe I was going for, so it just kind of spilled out, and I had the comic basically that Sunday. You know what I mean? I wrote it the weekend, realized, oh, I need to license this. The only way to do that is to contact this person. Took about a week, got the meeting, fell through, and then I just rolled with the secondary idea technically. But so far, I mean, my artist and I had discussions about this. We're so glad it fell through. This story, I think, is much more important and a better story, because it was originally coming from the point of the hero being Bob Ross, who kind of has his crap together. He's Bob Ross. He's there's no mistakes. He's happy little trees. He's really fun to get along with, and he would have been the fearless leader. To taking that away and focusing on a broken man who has to kind of fight for his life, even though he was kind of ready to end it on his own, which is what Vincent Van Gogh did in real life. And it changed the story and the tone of the story in a way that for the better, 100%.
It's interesting to bring Van Gogh in it, because Van Gogh was in Doctor Who with the
Matt Smith. I love that episode.
With the TARDIS, and he just lies shaking at the end. Absolutely great episode. And Bill Nye is fantastic as
always
museum curator, so that's fine. You're kind enough to send some pages over, so shall we have a look?
Yeah, so I can present for you. So Artificial One's already out and is available to purchase on our website, which I believe you'll have that linked to a link tree, which will take you to literally everything we do.
You mean that one?
Right there. That one, right there.
Yeah.
Speak of the devil. You got it. So I'll show you a little bit of Artificial One, just to show you what that was like. Let me share some screens real fast. right here. All right, let me know when you see it.
There you go.
All right, so I'll flip through a bit. That way you don't quite get
The
too
whole
much
story.
of the story. Yeah, the whole story.
I
But
normally stick to first 6 pages and then let's go. But that's a classic Van Gogh kind of background there for sure.
Yep. So that's my artist, Gabriel, kind of taking some of Van Gogh's, basically showing how Van Gogh sees the world in his style, but in my artist style, which was really challenging for him, but he nailed it. I really like the feel he did. My artist did all of the inking, the coloring, and the lettering. This is his first time. This is actually his first comic book ever.
All right. Wow.
And he killed it. So like, I'm very impressed with it.
I love. It's a little bit League of Extraordinary Gentlemen.
A little bit, yeah. I love that movie as well.
Yeah, I love that movie. There's 2 movies in my house that we like. I love the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, and my wife loves the Green Lantern movie.
I love the Green Lantern movie. I'm sorry. I'm not sorry. I like it.
I've interviewed Mark Guggenheim, and he was like, "So your wife's the one person?" I was like, "Yeah, she is."
No, 2. And next time,
like,
2. That's me.
And I like. I always get grief for this. I prefer Batman and Robin, the George Clooney movie, over The Dark Knight Rises. But that's a different story.
That's different than me. I don't agree. But that's
fine. So I love the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen vibe, that Victorian era type thing. The literary. So in League, it's the literary guys. You've got artists. So I love that kind of classic look. I love the composition here of the panels on top of panels. That is such a clever way to bring focus to key elements of the story without having to spend a whole panel and therefore detract from the pace of the book.
That's once again, that's my artist. I have some input here, but otherwise the composition is brilliant on his part. This is a 2-page spread right here that is probably my favorite out of the book. Cool. Just to give you a heads up, or an idea of it, I put a lot of love into this book. I did my research. So these 2 pages is actually a letter to his brother Theo, who he was fond of. He was basically his only person in the world that cared for him, at least from Vincent's eyes. So thankfully, a lot of his letters to Theo are published. Oh, cool. I was able to read all of his letters. So I read them all. I took little things that he would say and kind of rewrote it to fit the narrative of this story, kind of being a farewell letter. And so, there's little things in here that if you go to a published letter of his, you'd kind of see the resemblance. I really wanted it to feel like Vincent wrote it, which was really, it was a ton of fun writing this part. And even down here, I don't know if you can see it very well, but it says, "Regards with a handshake. Yours sincerely, Vincent," or eternally. Sorry, yours eternally, Vincent. I remember I showed my wife this, and she said, "Why do you put a regards with a handshake? That's weird." And I was like, "I don't know, but Vinny does it all the time."
Vinny, look at you, Vinny. Me and Vinny are just hanging out.
Me and Vinny, man. Well, I mean, I had to kind of get in his head. That was the whole point.
I get it.
But yeah, he signs off a lot of his letters with, regards with a handshake. It's interesting, quirky. So like all that. So this is as Vincent as I'm trying to nail the character historically.
Cool.
It's just a lot of fun.
So the colors, absolutely. The first few pages show are really dark and really a somber affair, and then you come to daylight. It's like a completely different country, nearly a whole different thing going on. Very well, the environs are really brought to life. Spot on work, definitely. And again, I think you're underselling yourself. From my experience, again, I appreciate the view from the cheap seat, so apologies. But these little panel bits that we fight for, those are primarily, I always feel, the key elements that the writer has to say, right, this has to happen. This, you can do what you like on this page, but this has to be seen because it has an impact 4 issues down the line. It has to be
exactly.
Seen. Yeah. So, give yourself a pat on the back, man. The book looks great. It looks paced brilliantly. Camera angles all work. There's not a flat panel in there in the whole thing. You sent me the book that I'm going to flick through after the pod just to kind of just ingest it. Absolutely brilliant. Brilliant.
Yeah, I'm glad you like it, or at least what you've seen so far. It was, like I said, it's been insanely fun to write. So that's issue 1, and it kind of I don't want to give away too much, but yeah, it's basically
don't give away anything. Make them buy the book.
Yeah, I would like you to. It's basically just the introduction to the Artificial series, and it's planning on being a very long running series that's going to go for many, many, many issues. I have a long plan for it, and I'm very excited about it. And then another reason why I wanted to come on here is I have Artificial 2 in pre-launch on Kickstarter currently, and I was going to show off a couple pages that no one has seen yet.
Whoa!
If you're interested. Some of them are work in progress, so they're not completed. They're all colored.
Bring it on. Bring it on.
So let me show you some goodies. So real fast, I have a new colorist. He's out. His name's Sergio Martinez out of Mexico. Also very intelligent and talented, and he knows his stuff. And it's just been adding a third brain onto this, which has not clashed in any way. It's only helped. So that's been tremendous. So you will notice a slight color change, but he also worked very hard to try and match a similar feel as Gabriel did. So this is the first splash page.
Whoa. Yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah, it's still gorgeous though.
Yeah, it's gorgeous. He did a fantastic job. A lot of this is going to be a bit of not a spoiler, but since you didn't see the end of issue 1, this is kind of it takes off right at the end of issue 1.
Okay.
Cool. This right here, the work in progress part, is this actually says "Welcome to San Francisco." That's a little hint as to where the main story takes place.
I hate the 9 as you can destroy San Francisco. It's fine.
Yeah. Oh, it went downhill. It's gone.
I'll blame Brock Purdy. Definitely Brock Purdy's fault.
Purdy. Yeah. Okay. It's gone. Don't worry. And then this is a really cool. This from our Kickstarter, we had a slot to become one of the characters in the book for issue 2, and so this is a father actually purchased a package for his son. So this is his son. We made sure to put him in the book in a really cool fashion, basically as inside the horde, as we'll call it. Let's see. This is
that's a great panel.
So my artist, I kind of told him, I said, push the bounds a bit. I was like, let's get funky. Let's get silly.
You mentioned Sam Raimi. I can see that.
This right here is Sam Raimi written all over it. This is my artist. And then we're also playing around with different, this has almost like a Victorian, like old painting vibe to it. There's much more detail in this panel than the other panels, and that was on purpose. So we're kind of we're swinging for the fences and trying to make something really cool. So, but yeah, it's not all sequential. Some of these are, but some of these aren't. This is a callback to the first issue. This so far is my favorite panel. No one has seen this yet.
I have no idea what the context is, but that is gorgeous. I'm loving this.
But
what's in there a little bit? Maybe. Oh, look at that! Spot on.
It's good. I'm very happy.
I am absolutely blown away.
And that's all you get. No more. Sorry, you're gonna have to.
What do I expect from a book in here?
Yep, gotta leave you wanting more. That's the whole point.
That indeed it is. Indeed it is. Right, where was I? So, let's have a look. I've got your web page here. We'll share this so everyone can see it. It's dead simple.
Yep.
Try
to make it super simple.
Dead simple. All you do, you go to the link which I had earlier, which is there, Bedbox Comics. It'll take you to this link, and then you can click on the various elements, and that will take you to where you need to be. If you go to Artificial 2, there it is. It goes to the Kickstarter page. There is an element so you can notify on launch. Please note, there are 36 followers already. That's 36 people who've seen the first one and are now back for more.
Yeah.
How cool is that? This is, I haven't even started. You've got people there,
I'm excited. Very excited.
Cool. Do you know how much you're asking for from your Kickstarter fund?
So we're kind of once again doing the investment concept of it's going to be done. My artists are already paid. The book is just almost finished. So I want to set it to a goal that's basically very achievable. That way there's no real worry about it funding or not funding. I think I have it set for just $500.
All right. Okay.
So that way in theory, you can be assured that it will not fail. That's my hope. And that the book will be done and will be available. Now, the other side of the coin is it is already done and will be available. This is kind of just to help us recoup some of the shipping and printing costs and everything like that. But yeah, the book's going to be 100% finished by the time the Kickstarter launches. Our goal is sometime mid-March, depending on the pace. That's another thing. I am not rushing my artists. They are.
No,
I'm saying take your time.
Definitely.
You know, it's coming along so well, so I can't push them in any way.
Just to give the guys listening, guys and girls listening to the show and watching the show, Last Wand, your partner in crime only asked for $250. That has been fully funded, and it is currently sitting at $1,161. So that tells the audience the level of creativity you've got going on there, the level of product that you're bringing to the table. So that's fine. That's brilliant. Well done. I assume there'll be PDFs available for international as well as real deals.
Yeah, actually, I'll try and make this quick as well. We kind of do the go big or go home idea. That's Bentbox Comics. And I'm actually working with a gentleman out of the UK. His name's Ben Gibbons. Shout out to him. Everyone go follow him if you can. To try and figure out a way to where we can have kind of a secondary supplier. I would love to give you a physical copy of Artificial. Well, I mean, I'll send you one anyway. The average viewer, you're not as special as a machine, but I'm trying to set you up too. I would love to get you a copy for £5 shipping. You know, something reasonable, because when you order from America, it's $35 shipping, so you don't even get the physical copy. And we put a lot. We have it's a velvet touch for the cover. It's a very high quality comic book, and I mean, the digital still looks good, but you're missing out not getting the physical.
Oh yeah, I'm a physical guy. I like to hold a comic book in my hand.
Exactly. Same here. I mean, the same. So like, we're working on an idea to get that to go through, and Artificial 2 might be a guinea pig. It might be the test subject to where hopefully you'll see, you know, in the UK, you'll go to press buy physical copy and it'll only say £5. That is the goal.
I think it's a great idea. One of the knockbacks for me as a Kickstarter fan is I don't mind dropping $5, $8 on a comic book. I do mind having to then pay $25, $30 to get it shipped over. So I end up, when I sign up for Kickstarters, I always get the PDF not because I prefer the PDF, because it's cost effective, and I don't want to pick up the cost of the $30 charge. I don't want you guys to pick up the cost of the $30 charge because it's in your profits. And I want you to keep making comic books. Yeah, so that's kind of how that's my logic behind.
Yeah, for sure. And we'll have digital as well. Where if you go to that link, you'll see one of the top links is our global comics page. Where ever since Comixology kind of went downhill a bit, we're kind of. I'm playing with the idea of going all into global comics. Hopefully, so far it's been a great platform. I highly recommend it. Our comics are currently on there, so you can go read them all digitally, except for the ones obviously coming out soon. They also have the ability to download PDFs from Global Comics as long as you have that option selected as a creator. I allow you to do that. So that's something you'll see on our Kickstarter page. Will be if you get the digital copy, it'll actually be a download code from Global Comics, and that'll get you your PDF. Yeah,
I've interviewed the guy who created Global Comics.
Oh, sweet!
What a great guy! Absolutely fantastic.
Love it so far.
Heart's right in the right place. And as for Comixology, now I'm not going to give up my personal opinion on Comixology, but I will say this: in my review pile this week, I have got a Comixology original comic to review. Guess what's not getting reviewed this week?
Oh,
Just saying.
There you go. Maybe you can switch that over for Artificial One.
Hey, you know what? I'd gladly do that, man. Gladly do that for you.
You got the file.
Yeah, I've got the file. Excellent. Yeah. Well, that's my weekend taken care of. Excellent.
There you
go. Now, what else was I going to do? I can't be watching the Dolphins anymore.
Nope.
Son of them. Don't sound so pleased. Son of them.
I'm sorry.
At least commiserate a little bit.
Oh, yeah. As you guys say, I'm taking the piss, right? That's my favorite saying. So sorry.
You're taking it, and Chris, it's been an absolute blast having you on the show. Thank you so much for spending the time. There's a link again. Head over to Bedbox Comics. It'll stick in your Google search. You know how it works. It's there, and it'll be in the text at the bottom of this pod. So when you get there, you'll be able to get there as well. You know, loads of cool stuff on there. Get them notified, check it out so when you can find out when Artificial 2 goes live, get your pledges in, get your book. It is that simple. What more could you want for?
Beautiful.
I don't know. Cool. Excellent. Chris, final words. Why should people check out Artificial 2? Why should they go to your Kickstarter and get that pledge put down?
We have to save humanity. And you're part of it. You're part of the salvation. Yeah. Go get Artificial. It's going to bring us all together against the machines.
Whoa! Not all machines.
There's some machines I do like, but
just easy on that. Thanks.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, there you go. Another fantastic Kickstarter waiting to drop. You've got the heads up on this. You've had some never been seen art before, so. What more could you want from a great show? Chris, you've been an absolute gentleman. Thank you so much for spending the time. I know how busy you must be. That's brilliant.
No problem. Thanks for having me, Johnny. It was a lot of fun, and I hope to do it again.
Definitely. You know what? The door is always open, my friend. You want to come on, you just drop me a mail and we'll find some space and find it in the schedule for you. Without a shadow of a doubt. Cool. Right. Don't forget to check out the UCPM for all your favorite shows. You saw the trailer for it earlier. The Old Timers Comic Book Show, where the hosts aren't all but the comics are. And if you like Marvel, don't forget to check out No Prize Podcast for all your Disney Plus, MCU, and Marvel comics. Yes, they do Marvel comics on a Marvel show. Who'd have thunk it? And all you DC fans, check out the Definitive Crusade to cover DC books. I'd say DC movies, but there aren't any of them, so let's just leave that there. I have been your host, Johnny the Machine Hughes, and it's that time again, my friends. As always, adios.
Visit undercovercapes.com for the latest and greatest podcasts via the Undercover Capes Podcast Network. Also visit our parent company website, comiccrusaders.com, all about comic pop culture.